Guys, it's Chef Brackman. Welcome to Saturday Night Live today. And today we will be discussing the topic malice. Hi guys. Okay, I'll wait a moment for more people to join. Hello. So, something happened on social media space in the last 2 weeks. And I will not go into the actual story, but I have been following the discussions and I realized that a lot of people don't understand what malice means. Hello, welcome. So different people have different ideas of what malice is, right? When I started to realize that a lot of people don't was when I started reading comments like, don't be proud. If you hurt your partner, just apologize. People assume that if someone is malicious and is keeping malice with you, that an apology will resolve things, which means that you don't even understand the psychology of malice. So I will try to tell a few stories, try to go over what I know, what I've learned over the years and what I've read, and just hopefully we can think about it and get to a position where we stop weaponizing resentment and just communicate. Communication makes everything better. So if someone hurts you, someone wrongs you, and then malice comes down to sometimes to emotional maturity. But we'll get to that. So malice is the intention or desire to hurt, punish, upset, humiliate, or emotionally wound another person. Sometimes it's openly. Like the person is keeping malice. They're not talking to you. There's silent treatment. They let everybody know. And then sometimes it's subtle. So you think you're still cool with somebody. Most times in malice, you don't even know what you have committed. You don't know the wrong. They don't communicate it with you. They are punishing you. You second guess yourself. You question yourself. You keep coming to them. Is it this? Is it that? Is it that? Is it that? So sometimes it's subtle. They poison everybody else. They tell everybody else stories about you. They try to isolate you and punish you. But they never vocalize what it is you actually did. A lot of people mistake malice for a grudge. They're two separate things, but they're related. A grudge is an internal feeling, is holding on to resentment or anger over something that has happened. Someone can hold a grudge with you for many years quietly and not act on it. Some will come approach you with their grudge. You will apologize. It will be resolved. It is not weaponized. It's not weaponized resentment. It's usually about you and the person you've hurt. And that's what it is. But malice comes down to ill will. It's about, it's just they want to hurt you. You will feel it in many ways. So basically, that's what the difference in malice. So I'm going to tell a few personal stories to drive the story. And then we're going to now try to look at it in marriages, in relationships, and hopefully you get away from this life with an understanding how to deal with it, how to spot it, how to decide not to deal with it, So let's get started. I grew up the first child out of 5 children. My parents, to the best of my knowledge, didn't keep malice. So we didn't have moments in my home where our parents were not talking to each other and we had to choose sides. No, we didn't have that. So I didn't have any experience of malice growing up. And the way I grew up, we had family friends who we visited. So with family friends, you really can't blank them because if your parents decide you're going there with them. So I didn't have this experience. I'd heard whispers in primary school, like someone would upset someone and then they cut them off. You can't play Oga with us. That's 10 to the games. They just isolate people. But I never got into any of that. So my first experience with malice was in boarding school. And even at that, I thought it was something that only children did. So when I encountered malice as an adult, it shocked me in a special way. But boarding school was the very first time I will get to that. So the thin line between them is that a grudge can be quiet, but a grudge, they're not trying to hurt you. You've hurt them. They're holding on to that hurt. They're holding on to that resentment. But malice, you may or may not have hurt them. It might just be a perception, but they want you to feel hurt because they are upset. That's how I would differentiate both of them, right? Thanks for your question. So when I got to boarding school was my first experience of malice. You do something to someone, or you don't even know what you've done. They stop talking to you. Then they recruit all their friends to stop talking to you. And if you're in a classroom and suddenly 10 people are not speaking to you, it's very uncomfortable. Or if you're in the dormitory and some people near your bunk are not speaking to you, it's very uncomfortable, right? So the first time I got to boarding school, I don't really participate in this thing. So I know people keep malice with people. So the first time someone had malice with me, it shocked me because I didn't understand what I did to the lady, right? She just stopped talking to me. When just it was 1998, and someone had told me, because this thing had dragged on for a while, a lot of people even in my hostel had noticed we were not talking. And it was bothering me because I really did not know what I did to her. And even when I tried to approach her to ask, what did I do to you? She would not tell me. And somehow someone made me aware that malice is a sin. I mean, there are portions in the Bible that tells you not to keep malice, but whether it's a sin in the technical sense of sin, I don't know. But at that point, I was preparing for confirmation. In the Catholic Church, you have to go for confession before a new sacrament. So I had confession to go to, and I didn't have any sin to confess to, because boarding school, you either avoid punishment by lying a little. There isn't a lot of sins you can commit. You can't kill anybody. You can't commit adultery, especially in the early years in boarding school. So I now had the grand idea to confess the malice that someone was keeping to me. So I'd gone to confession and I told the priest that there was a lady who wasn't speaking to me. So there's malice. And he told me to go and make peace. So I went to this girl to explain to her that part of my penance was to make peace with her. She still refused to talk to me. And I think some other students now took it upon themselves to report us to a senior girl who now made us kneel down and hold hands with each other, hug each other. And then she enforced that we started talking to each other. Till now, I don't know what I did to her, but I'm grateful that that happened, because shortly after that, she became sick and she died. So it kind of put something in my head that things need to be resolved as quickly as possible as well. So that was my first experience of malice, and I tried to avoid it. And I learned a lot by watching people who were going through this malice. Yes, I know. So, I mean, yeah, white lies are sin. Yes, I confessed to lying and to malice because they were the only things you could tell in boarding school. So, apart from boarding school drama here and there malice, I didn't have any experience of malice. So when I left boarding school, in my mind, malice was something that children do. So I didn't expect to encounter it in my adult life. So the next time I encountered malice as an adult, I was in a relationship with this guy. And to the best of my knowledge, the relationship was going well. And that day I cooked. I carried the food from my house and brought it to his house. And we both sat on the couch and he's eating and we're watching TV. And we're on the same couch. I made some sudden movement. I don't know why. But the plate of food fell from his hand. So the food now poured on the couch and on the floor. And he was visibly angry. So I'm apologizing profusely. I'm telling him, okay, there's still food in the bowl. He can go take more while I clean this up. And he's not talking to me at all. It was like film trick. I scrubbed the couch. I packed rice from the floor. Like I cleaned the floor, scrubbed the couch, and spent 2 hours sitting there trying to apologize and get him to just, okay, I didn't mean it, sorry. And because I had never encountered it as an adult, and this is someone that is supposed to be in a relationship with me, it shocked me so much. So 2 hours into this silent treatment, won't even look at you. If you touch him, he will remove your hand and move to the next couch. Like, 2 hours in, I said I was going home. I went home. And I was still calling from my home to apologize. I was still texting. And I didn't, So it took like 3 days or so to return to normal communication. And I can't even imagine if you're married already and then you're witnessing it for the first time, how you would think. But I was so shocked. He wanted me to suffer as much as I think he was angry his food poured. Then he felt ashamed of how angry he got. So he wanted me to feel some pain. Because of course it's embarrassing to be so angry. It's just rice. I wasn't even a Michelin star or whatever. So it was just rice. And then a few months later, I went to visit him. He was on the phone chatting with someone. And it seemed like he was chatting with another lady because there was a type of distracted and, there was something going on. So I'm sitting there, I'm being ignored. I wasn't finding it funny. So at some point, I told him that if you're not going to be present, I should go home. And he looked at me for a while and then kept chatting. So I took the phone from his hand and put it on the table beside him. And the silent treatment started again. But because I had experienced it that time with the rice, immediately I asked, oh, is this what we're doing? I got up and went home. What he learned is that this will not work with this girl. And what I learned is that I will not tolerate this. So I think malice works because people need connection. And there are people who are susceptible to it and there are people who are not. So when I was looking at the discussion and people who were not susceptible to malice were being insensitive to people that have dealt with weaponized malice. Because if you have never experienced malice and you're married, you're experiencing it for the first time in your marriage, and you don't have anywhere to go, and you're feeling some sort of shame, like you feel like you're doing something wrong, so you don't even know who to confide it in. So it's just something killing you and killing you alone with no outlets, and you really don't know what to do. So the aim of this conversation is that, yes, the same way that some of you will never suffer domestic violence because you walk out, some of you will not tolerate cheating, some of you will not tolerate malice. There are people, because of the way they have been raised and the things that they have been put through, they tolerate these things. So we need to be more sensitive in these conversations that, yes, this can never happen to you, but it could happen to this person. And how can we help and support them that they don't drown? So just some empathy and just think about what you're spouting when you're talking, So this next time I experienced malice as an adult was in Dubai. And this time it was my nanny, my daughter. She wanted some. So, come and say hello.
Hello.
Your daddy is also live. Go and close the door. Okay, so the next time I experienced malice as an adult, it was my nanny. And we had this thing going for a while because she was older than me. That was the first time I'd had someone who was that older than me working for me. So she was my nanny. I had 2 children, Zoe and Zimora, and I was living in Dubai. They were like a year old. And that day I was very busy. I was cooking a lot of dishes and I had to go for a meeting. I was running late and she kept calling me. And we were, Sister Jennifer, sister. So I looked up. I said, what is it? She was holding a plate with 2 black rotten bananas. I think banana that I'd kept to make banana bread and then I'd forgotten, so that spoiled. And then she held up these bananas to me and told me, Sister Jennifer, they are spoiled. Should I throw them away or should I feed them to Zoe and Zimora? And I'm busy. You've interrupted me. A lot is going through my mind. So I'm like, look at them now. Use your brain. At the point, I didn't know, according to her, in Ghana, it's a big insult to tell someone to use their brain. It means you're calling them stupid. I didn't know that. I didn't even think of this. I went to my meeting. I came back much later in the day. And I think it was a Saturday evening. So the next day, because at the point my husband was working in Iraq, he used to go to work on Sunday and come back Thursday. So I'd be with her in the house alone all week. So this happened on a Saturday night. So by the time I came back from that meeting, she was giving me some silent whatever. And I'm like, what's going on now? So I ignored her. I ignored it. I didn't give it any attention. So by the next day, Sunday, my husband had left. So it was just me, her, and the children. And then it was now more prominent that she was giving me silent treatment. And in addition to silent treatment, she was now not eating my food. And I know some women go through this when your husband will not eat because they're angry. Now, if you don't eat my food, if I cook dinner for both of us, because it was just two of us were the adults, if I cook dinner for two of us and you choose not to eat it, your dinner will become my lunch. And when I make breakfast, I won't ask you anything. I'll just eat breakfast because you're an adult, you have free will and you have two hands. If you're hungry. So she went on hunger strike that the whole of Sunday. And she also didn't speak to me. She will play with the children, she'll sing with them, but she didn't talk to me at all. By the second day, I wanted to keep ignoring it to see how far it would go, but it was mentally exhausting me because I knew that 24 hours had passed and she hadn't eaten. And it's very uncomfortable for me. Like some of the husbands that won't eat when they're angry with their wife, they will leave the house, they will eat. Now, this is someone who works for me. Even though she's older than me, she's under my care. And because for whatever reason, she has chosen not to eat for 24 hours, and she has made sure that I know she didn't eat. So it was really stressing me, but the next day I called her, I said, what's going on? And then she was like, I called her stupid. I said, I'm sure I could not possibly have. At the point, I think she was 54. And I was like 30 or so. I'm like, I'm sure. I am sure. Because it's not something I typically do. She now said, okay, I didn't call her stupid, but I told her to use her brain. And I said to her, but you showed me 2 rotten bananas and asked me whether you should throw it away or feed it to my children. Now put yourself in my shoes. She now said that I don't understand, and since I'm not apologizing, she continued the stuff. So I didn't give it any more attention again. Then the next day, in the evening, after she had rejected all the meals, then she went downstairs and bought snacks. So she came back with those snacks and ate them in her room. On the 3rd day, I said to her, if you're going to continue this, then you're going to leave my house and go and look for another job. And I think she thought it through and then kind of came out of it. So I can, because she's an employer-employee dynamic, I can give an ultimatum and resolve it, right? But in a relationship or in a marriage, it's more difficult, especially if the person is really persistent. I have an auntie that had to kill goats, had to beg the man's friends to come and beg him, and she killed a goat and cooked to beg him. They had some sort of dispute. I don't remember all the details, but the charge was that I think he was approaching her angrily. I think they were having a fight, and then she held him by his collar. In Igbo they say boyatai. So, or boyatai. So to him is the greatest abuse ever. So he stopped talking to her for a whole week. He didn't eat in the house. He only came in to change his clothes, and he slept wherever, and she was so distressed. So this weaponized, and this thing just goes on, and they had children. So the children, thanks for the compliment. So the children are picking things up, and it's not nice. It's not comfortable for the domestic staff, for everyone who is witnessing this malice. So someone does something, you just calm down. Like if you have a grudge, like sometimes you don't feel like talking because you're angry and you don't want to say the wrong thing. So you communicate, I am angry, you've done this to me, can you give me some time? I'll get back to you. This is communication. I do it sometimes. I don't want to shout. I don't want to say something that will worsen the situation that I have to apologize for. So sometimes You really, really annoy me. And I will tell you that we'll talk about it tomorrow. But today, I just need space. So I can have moments that I'm kind of cold and withdrawn, but it's not this whole weaponized malice that you're really trying to hurt the other person as much. And then the third time I experienced malice as an adult. This one was even more bizarre. So this lady lived in the same building as myself. She was also Nigerian. We lived in the same building, and our husbands worked in a different city. So in the week, we hung out a lot. So I would say we had become kind of close. Then at some point, a friend of mine visited Dubai. So 3 of us went to the mall. And we just hung out. We had lunch somewhere. We did some shopping. We moved around. And then at some point, she was gone. I looked for her. I couldn't find her in the mall. Went to Dubai Mall, and she was gone. So I called her phone 3 times. She won't pick. I sent her a text message. She didn't reply. And I think on my 4th call, she said she's at home. Then she cut the call. And that's how that malice started. And because we had become kind of close, but I didn't consider us very close friends, I said, yeah, she's an adult. When she's serious, she'll come talk to me. Because for the life of me, I couldn't tell what I did to her. And then sometime, I think 6 or 8 months into this, her not talking to me anymore, I was at a salon that we used to go to, and they were braiding my hair. She came into the salon. She took the seat next to mine. They started doing her hair. We sat side by side for like 2-3 hours. She didn't look at me once. She didn't talk to me. So I decided not to also use that moment to talk to her or anything. So 2 years, it took 2 whole years. And I moved out of Dubai. She also moved along somewhere else. Then I heard that a very close friend of hers, someone that we knew together, died of cancer. And I knew they were very close. So I called her. I called her to give my condolences and see how she was doing. And she was shocked that I called her. And she also congratulated me that I had my daughters. And then I said to her, but why did you stop talking to me? What did I ever do to you? She said that I was now with my friend, and we made her make pictures of us. And we didn't ask her to join the pictures. And she felt isolated. So it was jealousy. So sometimes when people carry malice, they can't express to you because they feel ashamed by the underlying reason why they got angry. Because this will now have to exhibit vulnerability and tell you they were jealous. So, we kind of resolved. But I was so shocked that my friend came. We went to boarding school together. When this happened was 2016. And we left boarding school 2003. So I hadn't seen her in a long time. And we're making a lot of pictures to share to our friends that we saw each other. And at the time, she didn't know my friend. She wasn't in our boarding school. We didn't see why she should be in the pictures. So we just, instead of asking someone else to make it, we just asked her to make pictures of us because we didn't want to make it selfie. So nobody meant to offend her or anything. But this took 2 years. And there are people that can really do this kind of things, and it doesn't always make sense. So it comes back to my point that it's not an unwillingness to apologize. It's not. And then another time I experienced malice as an adult was in Egypt. I'd gone to a party and I met this lady. She was Nigerian, 30-year-old girl. She had her husband was like 60-year-old French man. And at the party I went to, she was with some other babes. They have a clique. I was new to that compound, Katameya Heights in Cairo. I was new to that compound with my 2 one-year-olds, just trying to adjust. So at that party, I talked to her a bit. She said, she's going to invite us to dinner, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know her well, but I said, okay, I'll come. It's never a bad idea to meet more people, ask them where they buy goat's meat, where they make their hair, where they do this. So I'm like, no problem. So I think when we met, I told her I was a chef and all of that. So when she invited us to dinner, she called me like 2 or 3 times that week to tell me that she will cook this, she will cook that. She has this mushroom with cheese, she has this blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. So we were invited for 7:30, Henry and I, to their house, and it was in the compound. So we went to their house for dinner. She didn't come downstairs. Like, we arrived at 7:30 on time with wine. We were having cheese and crackers with her husband. There was another Egyptian lady there. She was an Egyptian actress. Her son came with her, small boy that even fell asleep on the couch. 8 o'clock, we didn't see her. 9 o'clock, we didn't see her. At 10 o'clock, we still hadn't seen her, and there was still no dinner. And the man was getting visibly frustrated and drinking more and more, and things were just weird. At some point, he asked me to go upstairs and check. So I got there. She's doing makeup. She was talking a lot of rubbish. I don't know if she was high on something, but eventually I encouraged her to come downstairs. So she came downstairs, and then they started cooking. So she came and put that thing in the oven, the mushroom with the cheese. It was barely edible. Then the husband, because he was now juggling a lot of things, he was making a salad, he was trying to pan-sear some salmon, and then he had this pan on fire with some seafood sauce that he had forgotten to turn off the heat. So the prawns in that sauce had turned to like rubber. I was the one who realized the heat was still on and helped him turn it off and told him. So everything came to the table. And we started eating. So I'm like, oh, the food is delicious. Thank you for having us. And she was like, no, you're a chef. You have to tell us how each dish was, one, and that kind of thing. I'm like, the salmon is perfect. The salad is delicious. I loved it. So it was okay, And she was like, no. So all like me, I'm painfully honest. So if I come to your house and eat food, if it's salty, just a little salty, I won't say anything. I will eat it. But if it's too salty to be eaten, then I won't eat at all. But if it's manageable, I will eat it and not say anything. But if you pointedly ask me, is it salty? I'll be like, yes. That kind of thing. So she kept poking me. At some point, I'm like, yeah, the salmon was nice, but the seafood was a little bit overcooked. And you know why? Because it stayed on the heat. And then all of a sudden, she started taunting her husband. I didn't know if it's a game that they play. But, because he's a Frenchman, so his ego and all that, all of a sudden, and he had drank a lot. So all of a sudden, he started telling us that when he went to work in Nigeria and the hotel she stayed, she was crawling around the bar, and that's where she picked him up. She was a dirty hooker. The night got really weird. So at some point, I said to Henry, let's get out of here because I'm not sure what's going on, and these two could start beating each other. So we left. And then she started the Malice. She went and she didn't tell everybody, she didn't tell her clique the full story. She told them that her husband cooked for us, and I came and talked down everything, and I was there acting like a chef, high and mighty. So all of a sudden, I'll come to the gym. I was noticing some coldness among these ladies. And because I didn't know them well, I was unaffected because there were many other people I could hang out with. So the way Egypt was, there were women, spouses of Afri-Exim bank workers. So there was Afri-Exim clique. There was the Shell. My husband worked for Shell. So there was the Shell spouses. And there were other people who lived on Katamea Heights you could hang out with. And there were the gym rats that you could hang out with. So there was so many other people that I could talk to. So I stayed unbothered when all this was brewing. One day we had a party. She sat beside me and said to me, man will cook for you, say food no sweet. I said, I'm sure that's not what happened. And then she walked away and sighed. And then at some point, one of the ladies, I think she couldn't take it anymore. So she came to me in the gym and asked me, so you're unbothered, you're not even feeling bad? I said, feeling bad about what? And she said that how I went and talked down on the man's cooking and blah, blah. I said, is that what she told you? If I gave you a blow-by-blow chain of events, will you believe me? So I told her exactly what happened as it happened, and she was shocked. So she was the one who went and maybe talked to that clique. When they now saw me, they acted warmer, but I was over it. So Malice is such a funny thing. So I think In her own case, she was also dealing with shame from all this information her husband had shared. So it wasn't about the food. She didn't even cook the food. The person who cooked the food wasn't even upset. So malice is a crazy thing, and it should not be encouraged. So to me, it's something that people who are not emotionally regulated do. Because emotionally regulated people will use their words the same way we tell children, use your words. So, and sometimes, like, I've encountered, this kind of things. You go to a dinner party, everybody's talking. Like, there was one that it happened to my friend. So a man was reporting his wife that she wasted money on taxi when she could have just used the metro, blah, blah, blah. So, and her husband was agreeing with this conversation. And she was like, but it's not fair now. It was about to rain and she's pregnant. So I understand that she will use a taxi to get back quickly. Her husband became quiet. On the drive home, he was quiet. And then that malice took weeks. What is her crime? She disagreed with his opinion. And because he's too ashamed to admit that you can't have a difference in opinion with him, it became malice. I've had situations where I went somewhere, I'm debating with my friend's husband, and she's begging me, like please, let him talk. He's a man. Let man talk. Let man have opinion. And I'm like, how can I come somewhere, me that's lived in Canada? Someone will be telling me that the capital of Canada is Toronto, and I will not tell you no, it's Ottawa. Because I went home and the man took it out on her that you invited your friend to our house to insult me. So the next time I visited them, she was now begging me not to even engage him at all. So malice is sometimes has to do with insecurity, pride, and a lot of things. So it's not just what happened. Sometimes it's deeper than what has happened. So we all need to be careful and have some empathy for people who are going through, because people are really going through. So in marriage, malice can become psychological too, because it creates anxiety. It creates emotional instability, fear of abandonment, confusion, and a constant desire in the other partner to fix the tension. You're always trying to fix what is not broken, what you don't even always understand, right? Over time, the partner starts over-explaining, apologizing for things they didn't do, walking on eggshells, suppressing their own needs. They become emotionally exhausted. So I've already explained that malice works because people are wired for connection. And malice is emotionally threatening. It activates insecurity and emotional distress. So this is the tool. This is what they are trying to achieve when they keep malice with you. When a woman becomes emotionally indifferent or emotionally regulated, the power of malice weakens. So for me, the first time, if I really, really care about you, the first time you keep malice, it might shock me, it might pain me, it might hurt me. The second time you do it, we're done. And most times, people keep malice with people who they know well. They understand how you will react to it. People don't keep malice with people they don't know, because you will not notice. If I just met you and you begin a malice, I will not even, you were not in my life yesterday. Why is this important? So people keep malice with people they are sure they will feel it. So when a woman becomes emotionally regulated or indifferent, she stops chasing emotional crumbs, which means if you're not going to talk, that's it. That's that situation that you've rejected food day one. You come back day two, she didn't cook. You know that day one, they beg you with the food. Day two, they beg you with the food. She has stopped cooking. She will order the chicken and eat it in front of you. And you'll go and tell your umunna what your wife did. She recognizes manipulation. She no longer interprets silence as authority. She understands that healthy love requires communication, not punishment. And when she gets to this realization and understanding, you cannot use malice anymore. The same way that you and your husband and wife, you can bring a child into this world and treat the child however you want and raise the child. But it gets to a point, that child becomes an adult, becomes emotionally independent and free. You can no longer talk to them the way you spoke to them as a child. And some of the people who are susceptible to this type of manipulation are usually women who married very early and had a lot of, that marriage was a form of security. Some of them went to university from their husbands' houses. That marriage kind of, their father's houses were hostile. So they were going from there into this house that was supposed to be security and freedom. And all of a sudden they're dealing with malice and they have nowhere to go. So they're likely to take it and manage it and deal with it for as long as they can. But it gets to a point, they're grown. They have a job. They can find rental. A lot of things are different and they will no longer take it, which means if you say leave my house, they will leave. So I need everybody who tends towards malice to understand that it cannot continue forever, because they will get emotionally regulated. They can meet someone who talks sense into them. And the moment that happens, you can no longer continue to use malice as a weapon. So you need to find a new way, find something else. So some cultures have normalized this behavior of malice as discipline. As we saw on a video that most Nigerians on social media have seen, where he says he uses it to control his wife. They use it as discipline, as teaching a lesson, as showing who is in charge. Please, we need to stop this behavior, trying to use malice to show discipline, to teach a lesson, or to show who is in charge. It does not work long term. It's counterproductive. Marriages should be built on repair, safety, communication, and mutual respect. That's it. Even if they don't agree, so even when your wife does not agree with you, maybe it's the tone. And sometimes it's men that have told their friends that they're alpha male. I control my wife. So all of a sudden, you're here eating in Kwabi with them and your wife just has a change of opinion and shuts you down. And it's not just that her opinion is not wrong. She didn't say anything wrong, but it's a perception, and it's not even your perception. It's what you think your friends perceived that you're punishing her for. So if people can just take the time, like since I picked up reflective practice, it has helped me a lot. Like, ask yourself, before you start expressing that righteous anger, ask yourself, why am I angry? What part of what this person said annoyed me? What is triggering me? All right? Communication resolves conflicts. Malice prolongs it. We need to remember this, right? Not all acts of malice come from pure cruelty or calculated manipulation. No, it can come from emotional immaturity. You're just not emotionally mature, right? Emotional immaturity, pride, insecurity, shame, and difficulty expressing vulnerability, right? Difficulty expressing vulnerability. So if you're going to admit that something hurts you, it puts you in a vulnerable position. And that is something that a lot of people cannot deal. Like when I was going through infertility, I learned firsthand that people are insensitive, people are wicked, and people are mean. But I did not keep malice with all the people who were hurting me in that period. I withdrew myself to think about it because, yes, I was feeling insecure about dealing with infertility. And I didn't want that level of vulnerability of going to meet them and saying to them, you see this telling me I should come and babysit and learn about children, or that you're telling me that I should travel all I want because if I have children, I will not travel. I should enjoy this moment that I'm childless. And you're talking to someone who is going through IVF number 3, and you're just telling them to enjoy their childlessness while it lasts, because with a child they can't do this, do that. And I just realized why all this talk from all these people was emotionally triggering for me. And I just started picking moments where I didn't need to be around them just so that it stops. But the moment I had my children, yes, in my brain, I remember this person is wicked, this person is wicked, but there's no grudge, there's no malice, it's just caution. It's different, right? So a person may feel hurt, rejected, embarrassed, jealous, disappointed, emotionally triggered, shame, or fear of conflict is part of the reason why people keep malice. Because sometimes, especially if you're opinionated and someone comes to tell you something that you've done wrong, and they have a funny feeling that you will not accept that you were wrong, and then you pull them into a debate and go back and forth, blah, and some people really cannot handle it. So they start to punish you with malice until you now come and say, whatever it is, I'm sorry. So sometimes a malice, at the time you're apologizing, you're not even sure what you're apologizing for. You just need the situation to end. So that's the end game, right? So, and especially a lot of people who keep malice are people who cannot handle conflict. Now, if you're among those people who cannot handle conflicts, let me teach you a new way. I learned it as a child because I had a lot of adults around me that wouldn't let you say what you're going through. Write to them. Because when you talk one, they talk 10. When you talk one, they talk 10. Write to them. I remember the first time I did it. It was so liberating and I have never stopped. I remember I pulled foolscap sheet and wrote my parents a letter, like long letter, and put it on their bed and left the house. And they read it and waited for me to come home. So by the time I came home, I didn't need to talk. All my points were made. So that, okay, point 1, let's explain this to you. Point 2, let's explain that to you. So open your WhatsApp. The person who has hurt you, go and chill. Think about it. Regulate yourself and write. Just be emotionally balanced. Write what it is that offended you, hurt you, whatever. Write it clearly and press send. They will not beat you. And that way, it removes you from this malice cycle that doesn't really bring anything. And there are a few people who there are like 2 people who are not talking to me now. I don't know why. I don't want to even go to unravel it, but because we've been close at some points, like one gave birth, I sent congratulations. One got bereaved, I sent condolences. Like I don't try to, I don't monitor their lives. Like the one that got bereaved, it was her brother. Her brother knows we were close at some point. Her brother pinged me to say their father had died. And I checked WhatsApp. I was blocked on her WhatsApp. So I sent my condolences to her through her husband. Right? So even in malice situation, whether you're the one keeping it or someone else is keeping it, you see things like birth, death, pregnancy. Try to use it to repair and mend if that relationship is important. But really, there are some relationships that you should be done with. They're no more worth it. So if people keep trying to hurt you with this type of malice, it gets to a point that it's enough. You're done. Everybody should go to their father's house and rest, right? So I hope that somebody at least has gotten something, understood something, that malice is not the way forward in a relationship, in a friendship, in a marriage. You see how this conversation is not about anybody in particular, but this topic as a whole, because it's something that is very common in our society. People are using it to hurt and punish people, and there are people who are just very susceptible to it. There are people who cannot handle it, and there are people like me that I will release you. But of course, it's more difficult to release your husband or the man you want to marry. But let me just tell you, a lot of people get in trouble after they're married because people are showing you who they are up front, and you are the one who is thinking of other things. You're thinking of your wedding, you're thinking of the children you want to have, you're thinking he lives in America or Canada, so you're going to America or Canada. You're not thinking, I don't like this behavior. This behavior needs to end. This behavior needs to change. So please, malice is not a good tool for anything. So please try to stop it if you're prone to it. There's nothing good about it. It hurts. it hurts people a lot. So please, let's stop it. That's what I wanted to discuss today. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Bye.